In the heat of the Russian-Ukrainian war, the battlefield has turned into a testing ground for some of the deadliest weapons we have today. And right in the spotlight is Germany's Leopard 2. Before this German supertank arrived on the battlefield, the Russians believed they had seen everything. It was a nightmare for Soviet forces with its unbreakable armor, powerful weapons, and advanced electronics. But can it truly turn the tide of war? How could a single Leopard 2 manage to take out multiple Russian tanks? But before we dive into the details, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Ukraine is replacing its outdated Soviet weaponry with modern Western models as its supply runs low. This change is making the war between Russia and Ukraine into a huge battle between Russian and Western weaponry. But the problem is, the armored vehicles and tanks that NATO and the United States have provided thus far are, well, a little outdated. Take Germany's Leopard 1 tank as an example. It was built in the 1960s. How can a tank that old really compete with the more advanced Russian tanks like the upgraded T-90A or the T-72B3? Not likely, right? With their most recent M777 howitzers, the United States has taken the lead. Is Germany next? They are discussing sending their cutting-edge Leopard 2 tanks. This impressive machine is Germany's main battle tank, and it's sparking a lot of debate. Could the Leopard 2 be the game-changer that Ukraine desperately needs? Or is it just another fancy piece of equipment in an already brutal conflict? The German Leopard 2 has taken the position of the American Abrams as the primary tank in Europe, with comparable performance but a somewhat lower cost. The second-to-last Leopard 2 A6 model costs approximately $6.79 million. In comparison, the British Challenger 2 costs $8.6 million, while the Abrams M1A2 SEP costs $8.5 million. The AMX-56 Leclerc in French? It's definitely not cheap with a $10 million price tag. But in this case, the cost of the weapons Ukraine is receiving isn't a big deal. Why? Because a lot of the arms supplied by the West are essentially on a lend-lease arrangement. Ukraine doesn't have to stress about paying for them right away, but there's an agreement that they'll settle up some way later on. What really matters to Ukraine is whether the Leopard 2 can compete with the Russian T-72B3, the tank primarily used in the battle. The original purpose of the Leopard 2 was to take on the Soviet tank onslaught. The Germans were preparing for massive tank battles, like the well-known tank battle between German Tigers and Russian T-34s that took place near the Russian Prokhorovka in 1943. You can easily find some of the features of German Tigers in Leopard 2. It has the same angular, sensible armor, with minimal slope on the hull and turret, particularly in the older models. Honestly, the Leopard 2, particularly the A4, almost seems like a box on tracks. However, with the Leopard 2 A5, the Germans started to experiment a bit further with the design. But this tank is really heavy. It weighs 63 tons and measures 2.8 meters in height, 3.7 meters in width, and 7.7 meters in length. So even if it may not be the lightest or most agile tank available, does that actually mean it can compete with Russian tanks in combat? That's the big question. During the war with the USSR, the Cats, much like the German Tigers, encountered a number of problems, especially related to their engine performance and overall service life. The main problem? The Germans found it difficult to fix these complex tanks in the field, which made matters more difficult. Since then, the Leopard 2 has improved significantly. To begin with, it is designed to be easy to maintain. The tank has a good lifespan of 10,000 kilometers before needing to be overhauled. It has a 1,500 horsepower turbo diesel engine and a hydro-mechanical transmission under the hood. The best part is that it only takes 35 minutes to replace the entire power plant in the field. Isn't that an impressive turnaround time? But that's not all. The Leopard 2 has a lot of firepower with 2 machine guns and a 120mm smoothbore rifle that can fire modern ammunition. The gun is not entirely automatic, but it is stabilized in 2 planes to maintain precision. That means 3 members of the crew, the commander, the gunner, and the loader, are in charge of the task. One of the most striking features? You really can't mistake the Leopard 2 for any other tank due to its distinctive appearance, particularly when the turret is facing backward. Why is that? Well, some of the ammunition is kept in the back of the turret, and it features these protective panels that bounce around to protect it. The idea is that if a shell were to strike the ammunition chamber, this clever design could give the crew a better chance of surviving the explosion. The Leopard 2 has a ton of really amazing technology. Its excellent Zeiss sight, efficient fire control system, and thermal imaging cameras allow the crew to see the whole tank. And let's not forget the fire extinguishing system and the multi-layered armor, which includes anti-shatter mats for an extra layer of safety. The Leopard 2 has been in service since 1979, making it a reliable member of the third generation of tanks. It has been modified, improved, and even given a slight makeover throughout time. The 2A5 and 2A6 are the latest and up-to-date versions. The most recent version, the 2A7 Plus, was released in 2010. It includes improving the fire control system, adding an armament module and auxiliary power unit, and digitizing the turret. During the disastrous dissolution of Yugoslavia, the Leopard 2 experienced battle in the Balkans for the first time. German tanks actively took part in several operations, but the enemy occasionally shot at them. Fortunately for them, the tank survived because the enemy had few weapons. Then, in Afghanistan, the Leopard 2s proved their worth again. Although there were several serious incidents, they only happened when the tanks collided with mines or improvised explosive devices. When Turkey got involved in the war in Syria, things became more dire. Anti-tank systems destroyed 10 Turkish Leopard 2 tanks, notably the older A4 variant, causing significant losses. The reason is simple. These older models just don't have the modern dynamic protection that newer ones do. This makes them pretty vulnerable to even basic weapons, like the Soviet RPG-7, especially if they get hit from the sides or the back. Then the Russian T-72B3 tank. It was first introduced in 1973 and has had several upgrades since then. The latest version, the T-72B3, debuted in 2011. With a weight of only 46 tons, the T-72B3 is now much lighter than the Leopard 2. The interesting part is that the T-72's 840 horsepower engine gave it a specific power of 18.3 horsepower per ton when it first went into production. The Leopard 2, with its powerful 1,500 horsepower engine and 23.8 horsepower per ton, was far superior. The Leopard definitely had more speed, no question about it. When it comes to firepower, the T-72B3 brings a 125mm smoothbore gun, which is easily on par with the Leopard's 120mm gun. Plus, the T-72's automatic loader means it only needs 2 crew members in the turret instead of 3. That smaller crew size results in a more compact turret design. The Leopard 2's compact and clever opponent is the T-72B3. It is 33 feet shorter and more than 17 feet lower, and its rounded shape makes it ideal for bouncing off enemy shells. The tank is prepared to combat if you add strong armor and dynamic protection, such as Contact 5 on older models and Relict on more recent models. Thus, the Leopard 2 is up against a well-prepared, well-armed, and unexpectedly agile enemy. But will the German tank's cutting-edge electronics and Zeiss optics give it the advantage? These two armored giants may find their ultimate test on the Ukrainian battlefield. When forces are evenly matched, success depends on the skill of the commanders and crews. And here's where the Russians hold a big advantage. Ukrainian tankers are just getting to know the Leopard 2, a brand new addition to their arsenal. Meanwhile, Russian crews have spent countless hours and thousands of kilometers mastering the T-72 at firing ranges. This difference emphasizes the importance of experience, but there's another key element that can really make a difference: motivation. In any conflict, motivation plays a major role. For the Ukrainian people, this conflict is a struggle for their independence, their families, and their homes, not just a conflict over tactics or technology. What do you think? Will the Leopard 2 help the Ukrainians gain the upper hand against the Russian T-72B3? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We've got plenty more exciting reviews of military tech coming your way.